have a new mimer from the Dvar Malchus. It's that's a mugga mimer this time. It's Shabbos Parshas Chukot Bal Yud Beis Tmuz Tavshin Chavtes. The same kvias like this year. This year is also Yud Beis Tmuz comes out on Shabbos that we read Chukot Bal. Daber Hashem al Moshe Goimer, and Hashem spoke to Moshe, etc. He says, this is the Chukah, which we'll soon speak about, that a chayk is a super-rational law of the Torah, and they will take to you, they will bring to you the paradum. So over here, it's similar to a question that we have in the Maimon after the Tzava. Why was the paraduma brought to Moshe? So he says, Rashi explains, why does it say they will bring it to you? That always the paraduma will be called by your name. Parashas Moshe Midbar will always be spoken about. But the heifer, the paraduma that Moshe Rabbeinu did in the wilderness and made in the wilderness. We need to understand. Only the first paraduma Moshe Rabbeinu made. We know throughout history there was, including the paraduma of Moshe Rabbeinu, there was 9 paradumas. So when Mashiach comes, it'll be the 10th. So it was only one that Moshe Rabbeinu made. Therefore, the question is, therefore, why are all the paradumas, the 8 paradumas that they made after Moshe Rabbeinu, and also the 10th para that Melcham Mashiach will make, why are all of them called Al Moshe on Moshe's name? To add, according to what's known, shall call Dvar Ashi Yikruloi. Moiral and Yonovitz Oichnoi, the Alter Rebbe says in Sharich V'Munah that the name of any item that is called, that is its life force and vitality, and therefore it indicates what its content is, what its ideas behind it is, and so on. Moving, it's understood. The fact that all the paradumas are called by Moshe Rabbeinu's name, not only the one that Moshe Rabbeinu himself made, because this idea, the connection of Moshe Rabbeinu with the paraduma, is what they are about. That the paraduma is about the connection with Moshe Rabbeinu, regardless if he actually made it or not. They are associated with. According to this, we have to understand even more. So, the fact that all the paradumas are called by Moshe Rabbeinu's name. How they ask by Moshe Rabbeinu's name, how they ask the making of the paras was through the Kohanim. And not only some paras were made by the Kohanim, but all of them. Also, the first paraduma was also made through Elazar. And what it says that it's the para that Moshe Rabbeinu made, Parash also Moshe Bamidbar, doesn't mean literally that Moshe Rabbeinu made the paraduma in the midbar, because it was really Elazar HaKohen that made it. Rather, when we say that's the para that Moshe Rabbeinu made, it means it was made by his directive and his command. So therefore, the Kohanim were the ones that actually made the paradumas, even the one that Moshe Rabbeinu had. And therefore, we need to understand there was no real seeming connection in the physical plane between Moshe Rabbeinu and the paradumas, so there must have been some deeper connection. What's the connection between all the paradumas, beginning from the first one through the 10th one, that they're all called on his name, meaning there's some inner content and inner meaning and an inner association between the idea, what the paraduma is about, and what Moshe Rabbeinu is about. So to approach that idea, he's going to say no, it's based. But in the idea behind this is the Isabel Torah brought down to the Torah that Tamal Zeshu Paraduma, The reason for this time, Paraduma, it says, this is the chayk of the Torah. Why is it called Zois Chukas HaTorah? There's many, many mitzvahs in the Torah. Why is this called in the chukah of, like telling us that it's the chayk of the entire Torah? The fisha mitzvahs Paraduma, he calls HaTorah, because the mitzvah Paraduma is something that is a general mitzvah that is like containing in it and associated with all the mitzvahs of the Torah, as we'll soon explain. Based on that Paraduma has to do with the entire Torah. So therefore, it's going to be understood why it has to do with Moshe, because Moshe Rabbeinu has to do with the entire Torah as well. And therefore, he says in line 18, just like the Torah is called by Moshe Rabbeinu's name, Moshe Kosovo, like it says, Zichru Torah's Moshe Avdi, remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant. So we see that Torah is called Moshe's Torah. Ken Gam Paraduma, so to the Paradum, she close Torah, that Paraduma, since it also is considered the general part of the Torah, it's considered something that the Torah is the entirety of the Torah. So also Nikras al Shmoy, it's also called by Moshe Rabbeinu's name as well. So now the Rebbe adds, seemingly we can add Malchus built to the Torah. That's what it says with the Torah, top of the second page of the Maimon. Mitzvah's Paradum, he calls our Torah. The mitzvah Paradum is the general part of the Torah. When we talk about the Torah, it includes the entire Torah, it's about the mitzvahs of the Torah, not about Torah study so much. It's about all the mitzvahs of the Torah. This is understood by looking at the explanation over there in the Maimon of the Torah. Because the why is talked to the mitzvah paraduma, the general and inclusive of the entire Torah. The foundation of all the mitzvahs is about rushing towards Hashem and returning back. And that is what every neshama is trying to do. They are trying to connect with Hashem and then bring it back in the physical body. Often it's the expression of having love for Hashem by davening, and then in the mitzvahs, we're doing mitzvahs with the physical world. And he says, in the actual making of the paraduma, it's also Ratzu B'Shoyim, because the idea of burning it up in a fire, that's the idea of Ratzu, rushing towards Hashem, the fire rising upwards, and then it being placed, the ashes are put in the Mayim Chaim El Keli, and the living waters into a vessel. The idea comes into a vessel, that shows on the idea of returning, coming down, and the idea of water in general is the opposite of fire. Fire is going upwards. Mayim is Yerdu Makim Well Makim Namuch. So therefore, based on this association that Alter Rebbe the Torah says, why is Paraduma Zois Chukas HaTorah in general laws of the Torah? Because of this nature that the mitzvahs in general have of Ratzi Yeshu. So therefore, when we say that Paraduma is the Chukas HaTorah of the entire Torah, primarily the focus over here is on the mitzvahs of the Torah. These close mitzvah Torah, the general mitzvahs of the Torah are connected with Moshe. In other words, one might think Zichru Torah's Moshe Abdi, that it's about the Torah study. Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the idea of Torah study. It's his teachings and so on. He taught us the Torah and Har Sinai and so on. But since we're comparing this to the Zois Chukas HaTorah Paraduma, therefore the idea of the Paraduma being the general idea of close mitzvah Torah connected to Moshe is the idea of the mitzvahs, because that is where Paraduma connects and is associated with the mitzvah Paraduma. So now the Rebbe is going to explain how does Moshe Rabbeinu fit into all of this, what's the significance of Moshe Rabbeinu, and so on. Line 8 is page Vav of mine. As we can explain this, I'll be much according to what's written in Tanya. That time also should say Moshe Rabbeinu durch Nichsul Aretz. The reason for this that Moshe Rabbeinu commanded the generation that entered Eretz Yisrael. Likri Kriya Shema Pamayim B'chol Yom, to read Kriya Shema twice daily. L'kabel Malchus Shemayim Mesiras Nefesh, to accept upon themselves the yoke of the kingdom of heaven with self-sacrifice. Seemingly, the Alter Rebbe says over there in Tanya, Hashem promised them that when the Yidden go into Eretz Yisrael, they will not have to be scared of anybody in there, because Hashem will throw his fear upon them. The fear of the Yidden will be upon the nations that they will go in. So therefore, there's no reason for Shema Yisrael in the sense of literal self-sacrifice. In other words, I don't have to be concerned that I may have to give up my life to be able to perform Torah mitzvahs. So since I don't have to be worried about actually needing to give up my life in the performance of Torah mitzvahs, nobody's going to hold a gun to my head, chas v'shalom, and say, bow down to Avodah Zarah. So therefore, why was it so crucial and vital that before the Yidden went into Eretz Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu taught them about the idea of Mesiras Nefesh, of Shema Yisrael? There won't be, at that time when they're going to Eretz Yisrael, this concern about self-sacrifice and giving up one's life for Torah mitzvahs. So the Alter Rebbe in Tanya explains that the reason why he taught them that is Torah mitzvahs totally b'schiras inam mesiras nefesh, because the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs is dependent upon remembering the concept of self-sacrifice. Like the Alter Rebbe establishes in Tanya, beginning from Perek Yud Ches, going on to Perek Chav Hei, that if a person remembers that they're willing to give up their lives for Hashem when it comes to separating themselves from Hashem and Avodah Zarah, and truth, every mitzvah is about bonding with Hashem, and every Aveda is separation from Hashem. So when a Yid remembers that they're willing to give up their lives for Hashem, rather not be separated from Hashem, this will assist them in fulfilling every and any mitzvah. So that's why Moshe Rabbeinu gave them and told them about the idea of Mesiras Nefesh before they went into Eretz Yisrael, as an inspiration for all mitzvahs that they have to do, not because they would have to actually face cases and situations of physical self-sacrifice. So he says in line 14, now that Rebbe elaborates upon that point, we could say, the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu specifically commanded this to the generation that entered Eretz Yisrael, what self-sacrifice? The idea of bit, especially the idea of not especially, but the spiritual self-sacrifice that's necessary, putting one's will and desires aside, that's the idea of bit. Since the person does have an existence, he's the opposite of the idea of bit. So that the idea of self-sacrifice should be by him revealed in such a way that the self-sacrifice should be set in his heart constantly, day and night. It shouldn't move from his memory, like Alter Rebbe says over there in Tanya, at the end of chapter 5. As a person needs a specific empowerment and capability to do this. Why the empowerment for this is through Moshe Rabbeinu. What is it about Moshe Rabbeinu that does this? Because Moshe Rabbeinu exemplifies the idea of bit. Like Moshe and Aaron both said, and we are what? What indicating what are we? We are of no significance. Therefore, since Moshe Rabbeinu was the embodiment of the bittul, therefore, through Moshe Rabbeinu commanded the generation that entered Yisrael, accept upon themselves twice a day the yoke of the kingdom of heaven with self-sacrifice. So by Moshe Rabbeinu commanding this to them, the top of page 9, through this, they were given the capability and the power to constantly remember their self-sacrifice. The idea of self-sacrifice, we know, is something that's embedded in part of the very innate nature of every single Yid. And but that can remain concealed, as Alter Rebbe explains over there in Tanya and Perikut Ches and Perikut Tes. That's why it's called also Avam Suteres. It's a concealed love. It's a love that's not necessarily always in the forefront. But Moshe Rabbeinu commanding the Yidden before they entered Eretz Yisrael, the idea of the Mesiras Nefesh, that gave them the capability to constantly remind themselves of it. Zehu, going back to Paraduma, that always the Paraduma is called by your name, by the name of Moshe Rabbeinu. Because what do we say? Paraduma is the whole entire idea of Torah mitzvahs. And the whole entire idea of Torah mitzvahs depends on Mesiras Nefesh, which Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that enables us to do that. Torah mitzvahs, the Paraduma, Torah mitzvahs, because fulfillment of Torah and its mitzvahs, which is the Torah and mitzvahs of Paraduma, which exemplifies and includes in it all the Torah mitzvahs, totally b'schiris in Mesiras Nefesh is dependent upon remembering the idea of self-sacrifice. And this power to constantly remember the idea of self-sacrifice, why the Moshe is through Moshe Rabbeinu. By day is Pashtus of the Moshe B'chol and through the expansion of Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation, that every generation has the Moshe of the generation, that Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that empowers us to have Mesiras Nefesh and Bittul in our generation, which is until and including the previous Rebbe, the leader of our generation, the one whose celebration is on Yud Beis Tammuz, the one whose redemption is Yud Beis Tammuz. So he also is the one that empowers us because he's an extension of Moshe Rabbeinu to have the idea of Mesiras Nefesh. The Rebbe adds, we could say, through the avodah of the leader of our generation, throughout all the 30 years of his leadership, he expressed it in a way of open self-sacrifice. So therefore, the empowerment for remembering the Mesiras Nefesh from the expansion of Moshe Rabbeinu, our generation is even more revealed. In other words, even though Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who brings about the idea of Mesiras Nefesh in us, but and in a similar vein, the reason why the Frierdiker Rebbe brings about the Mesiras Nefesh within us is because of Moshe Rabbeinu. Yet the Mesiras Nefesh of the Frierdiker Rebbe in the 30 years of his Nesius was in a revealed way, both in the Soviet Union, and the Rebbe explains how even afterwards there were other aspects of Mesiras Nefesh of the Frierdiker Rebbe, other challenges and so on. So because it was revealed by the Frierdiker Rebbe, so therefore this empowering us with Mesiras Nefesh is in a much more powerful and much more revealed way than even the Mesiras Nefesh, the way the Yidden got it from Moshe Rabbeinu. Any questions before we go on? Okay, page Zion, line 14, second paragraph. Amongst explanations of the mitzvah of Paraduma, that the mitzvah of Paraduma is the general and all-inclusive of all the Torah. That's why it says this is the statute of the Torah, as if this contains the entire Torah. So in addition to what we explained before, because it has in it Ratzui B'Shu, in addition, there's another point. The foundation and basis of all mitzvahs is that all mitzvahs are super-rational decrees and laws. I know this means to say Sham mitzvahs same Ritzoyna Elin Shalom Mailam Aseichol mitzvahs are Hashem's supernal will that's beyond intellect. Even mitzvahs, as we're soon going to explain, that we could understand, those were only they came down later that Hashem brought down from His will into a level that we can understand, but really they are beyond. They come from a place that's beyond understanding, beyond intellect. Therefore, also the way we fulfill the mitzvahs has to be in a way of accepting the yoke of heaven, since we realize that the mitzvah transcends understanding. So because the mitzvah transcends understanding, therefore our commitment has to be, even if we understand the mitzvah, not because of our understanding, but out of accepting the yoke of heaven. Like Hashem says, I've decreed a decree, I've made a law. Based on this explanation of why Parah Duma is the klal of all the mitzvahs, so that it's understood even more so. The fact that Parah Duma is called by Moshe Rabbeinu's name, so that the fulfillment of all the mitzvahs. Despite the fact that there might be some mitzvahs that have a reason. So those mitzvahs that have a reason, I may want to do and I may want to fulfill because the logic that's in it. But how do I actually attain that I'm going to be fulfilling it? By from the Zoychok Satoira, it will be in a way that I'm fulfilling it with the Kabbalah's oil as if it's something that's super rational. Why they Shatoira of mitzvah, because through the fact top of page Ches, a Torah and its mitzvahs. Even after they were enclosed in Chachma and intellect. Nikras al Moshe is called on Moshe Rabbeinu's name. Shinyanehu Bittel. The idea of Moshe Rabbeinu is that he has and he embodies Bittel, like we mentioned before, and also we said this. We said also the pasuk Torah's Moshe Avdi. It's Moshe Rabbeinu's Torah, but Moshe Rabbeinu, as he is my servant, servant shows I'm Bittel. So even though Torah, there might be Torah that's logical and understood, and therefore I may not fulfill it with full Kabbalah soil. But since it's Moshe Rabbeinu's Torah, and Moshe Rabbeinu had Bittul, so he empowers us to fulfill even the rational parts of Torah with Bittul. By Daisy, through this, there's the empowerment to every single Yid. Like through the Moshe that's in every Yid. Give a bit of Kabbalah soil, that his fulfillment of mitzvahs, that every single Yid's fulfillment of mitzvahs will be a bit of Kabbalah soil, just like we have filled the Paraduma, which is the decree of the Torah. So Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that all the Paradumas are called by, because Moshe Rabbeinu empowers us to have this type of Chukas HaTorah, not just by Paraduma, but by every mitzvah, even the rational mitzvah. Line 8, Israel Medrash, it's brought down the Medrash al Apostle. They shall take you the paraduma. So Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, so the Eibishter told Moshe, L'cha ani megala tampar. To you, Moshe Rabbeinu, I will reveal the reason for the paraduma, even though we said that paraduma is the embodiment of super rational mitzvahs, but Moshe Rabbeinu has revealed the reason for paraduma. But another, they are chukah. This is considered something that's super rational. Again, perhaps it's the Medrash's take on why it says v'yikchu elecha. Why does it say again v'yikchu elecha paraduma? So Rashi explained v'yikchu elecha paraduma because all the paras are called by Moshe Rabbeinu's name, but this Medrash perhaps is translating, explaining why does it say the word v'yikchu elecha, it shall take to you, meaning paraduma is yours, you will understand it. But everybody else is zois chukas, it's a level of a super rational law. So now the Rebbe says, we just now finished explaining that Moshe is the one that empowers us to be able to fulfill the mitzvahs, all the mitzvahs like should be done like paraduma, in a super rational manner, in a manner of Kabbalah soil. But hold on, Moshe Rabbeinu was not fulfilling the mitzvah of Parah Adumah with Kabbalah soil. Seemingly, by him it was a rational mitzvah. So how can we say that he would empower us with this super rational nature? He says in line 11 this question, but sort of long when you understand the Kimush of Moshe, he said Atam the Cholam mitzvahs. Since Moshe Rabbeinu grasped the reason of all the mitzvahs, Gam Atam the mitzvahs Parah Adumah, also the reason of the mitzvah of Parah Adumah. He had it come down to him the empowerment for fulfilling mitzvahs in a way that I've made a law, I've carved out, and I've decreed a decree. So the Rebbe is going to answer based on the fact that every mitzvah has in it both the super rational component and the rational component, and therefore, even if Moshe Rabbeinu had a rational reason for Parah Adumah, he could still do it in a super rational way. So the Rebbe says, well, after Lavayr seemingly could explain this according to what it's written in a different place. Every mitzvah has both the super rational component and the logical component. He called our mitzvahs called all the mitzvahs. Gamma mitzvahs the Eidus Mishpatim also the mitzvahs of Eidus and Mishpatim, that there is a reason for them. They are his will. They are the Eibish's will. And will is beyond reason. They're even higher than the reasons that's in his wisdom. So therefore, even though I may understand the reason for some mitzvahs, with my understanding the reason of those mitzvahs, there is still the component that's super rational. So even the most logical mitzvah has its super rational plays, and vice versa. He's going to explain how even the super rational mitzvahs have also some room in logic. So he says, line 20, and since the will of mitzvahs, gamma mitzvahs, the chukim, even those mitzvahs that are super rational mitzvahs, even the will that's in the mitzvah Parah Adumah, which is completely seemingly without reason to it, still in all nimshach and islabish b'chachma the Torah. It was drawn down, was enclosed in the chachma of the Torah. In other words, there's all types of halachas and all types of things that we study about the mitzvah Parah Adumah, how to fulfill it, what to fulfill, when, and so on. So therefore, nitvasev bohem tam, through that was added in them a reason. So therefore, all mitzvahs have in it the super rational component and the logical component. The Rebbe says if all mitzvahs have both the super rational and the rational, what's the difference between Eidus and Chukim? Why do we say some Mishpatim and Chukim? Why do we say some mitzvahs are rational, some mitzvahs are super rational, if all mitzvahs have both? So he says in line 23, V'achiluk shebein mitzvahs the Eidus and Mishpatim la mitzvahs the Chukim, the difference between the testimonial mitzvahs, ceremonial mitzvahs, and the logical mitzvahs, civil laws. The mitzvahs that are super rational, mitzvahs the Eidus and Mishpatim, the mitzvahs that fall into the logical category. The reasons of his will, of his wisdom, were drawn down and clothed in the intellect of created beings, even to human intellect. And the mitzvahs of the laws, of the statutes, of the decrees, their reasons were not enclosed so much in created intellect. So they still remain a little bit super rational, even when we have the laws and the rules and so on. The mitzvahs Parah Adumah, top of page test, the reason why the mitzvah of Parah Adumah is in the Eibishter's Chachma and Chachma D'Atzilus, but like Nimshach Klal B'Seichel Nevroim. The reason of Parah Adumah, which is on the one hand is super rational, on the other hand we have a reason for it, was because it remained only in Chachma D'Atzilus. It never really came down the intellect of Nevroim. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu comprehended the reason of Parah Adumah was because he was higher than Nivraim. He was beyond creation. Well, if he should down be a Salamata, because Chacham, that's his big Yilu, because even the way he was down here, he was Chachma of Atzilus, was revealed by him, so he could attain and see and comprehend the level of Chachma, Paraduma, the way it's in Chachma Datul. This is still all a lead up to explaining how Moshe Rabbeinu could empower us with the level of a super rational understand, with a super rational commitment to the mitzvahs. If all mitzvahs by Moshe Rabbeinu, even Paraduma, had a rational explanation, we didn't yet complete the first step of this answer. To be continued tomorrow.